All right. We're back for another episode of the Bad Ideas podcast with Paul Malott. Paul, welcome.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Nick. Appreciate being on.
So you're the co-founder of Automations 24. What do you guys do?
We're a no-code, low-code automation agency, right? We're in the business helping businesses save time and money.
So many buzzwords. Break it down. Like what
Oh,
the.
no code, low code, API connections, right? Today, the
Mhm,
world is operating with a bunch of niche applications,
mhm,
and somebody's got to connect those niche applications. And the way to do
mhm,
that is via API. And rather than spend 10 hours hard coding something into it via typical computer language, we
mhm.
use applications like make.com and basically build no code solutions for various companies of all kinds of sizes.
Got it. So no code, as in you're not writing lines of anything. You're just using tools to connect tools.
Yep, you got it.
All right. Cool. What kinds of companies do you work with, and what types of projects do you guys spend time on?
Hey, great question. We're actually pretty, tech agnostic, I should say. There's plenty of
Mhm.
industries. We've actually found a sweet spot here more recently with real estate, which is not my forte, I'll say, but
Yeah.
it's slowly becoming my forte. And we end up helping a lot of founders in smaller businesses in lead generation,
Mhm.
prospecting, marketing, right? All the typical problems. I think a lot of people today want customers to spend money, and a lot of customers aren't looking to spend money. So
So you guys find a way to reduce cost for folks. So
yeah, in
it's an
general, right?
easy
It's all
ROI.
about saving time. So the way that I like to look at it is, how much do you value 1 hour of your time, right? And when you're talking to a potential client, it's anywhere from $50 to $700,
Mhm.
depending on who you're talking to, right? And what we do is basically find out where they're spending time they don't need to spend or want to spend, and
Mhm.
we're basically shifting that activity to something that's going to generate ROI, right?
That's awesome. Um, how did you decide this was the thing?
Wow.
Because I mean, we can go back in time for you too, because your background is purchasing, right, and supply
Yeah.
chain. How did you find your way to automation? It's a jump.
Yeah, it is a bit of a jump. I mean, so I spent 20 years as a procurement professional. I worked for General Motors. I worked for Harman Kardon. They do the JBL headphones, Mark
Mhm.
Levinson, super cool companies to work for and all in procurement, right? So supply chain. And what I was doing was basically purchasing the bill of material or the components that go into making widget A or, finished good B. And in doing that, every company wants to squeeze the money out wherever they can, right? They want to save
Mhm.
pennies and fifths of pennies. So you have to scrutinize almost everything of a process, right? So when
Mhm.
you're buying, let's say, even a screw, a standard screw, you need to know the machining of the screw, the material of the screw, how long it takes to process, and that all
Mhm.
goes on a piece of paper, and you get super hyper analytical about it, and then it goes into the wind. You find a source. Well,
Yeah.
that got me super interested. About 5 years ago, we were doing something at Harman where we were basically looking into the future. What is a vehicle going to be like 10
Yeah.
years from now? And Harman was basically betting at the time that vehicles are going to be these entertainment systems, right? And so we're
Which they
talking
are.
about things like augmented reality heads-up display in a vehicle, right?
Mhm.
Those things don't exist. You have to find a way to make them. And so I got really involved in like new technologies, new bills of licenses, and actually tech, right? Tech-oriented stuff. So that was the merger of process and technology, basically. And then
Yeah.
about a year and a half ago, I said, "Hey, I think I can do this myself. I'm kind of tired of sipping the company juice, you know." Let's start seeing what I can do, and then it's become an organization, which is beyond belief.
That's awesome. So how did you settle on automation itself? Was it just like you're resourceful for work in supply chain, and then you were like, I can do this for tons of companies. Let me be that,
Well,
and that's kind of where your 24 came
fantastic
from.
question. I think I,
Yeah.
I ended up there because I realized the accessibility of it. First of all, right? It's a
Mhm.
dangerous thing in a way, but these tools are more and more accessible to us. No code automation made it incredibly accessible to me, right?
Mhm.
As a nerdy ADD guy, and and process orient when I was able to understand that it was a process, right, from
Mhm.
A to B to C to D. I figured that I could actually do that. and being able to do that, right now, you exhibit it. You start doing it inside your own organization as you build it, and you basically replicate it. And I started studying, right, business strategy. So I'm a doctoral candidate at the U of M Flint, and I studied business strategy and digitization of business in particular. That could be like AI or whatever, anything digital really. But the foundation of business, we're like in this paradigm shift right now where AI and automations are taking a back to how, the structure of a normal organization, right? And this bat means that companies the size of me and five strong partners can become huge, right? And they're built on agile foundations that take full advantage of strategic theory, dynamic capabilities, be sensing, seizing, and changing your company. That's agency, right? That's agentic AI. So I said, let's go all in.
That's awesome. And how long? It's been like a year. I think
Yeah,
you. Yeah,
exactly a year.
that's awesome.
May 1st was like basically like my christening.
That's super cool. So you saw an opportunity, you had the idea, you went for it. It's been a year. You're not dead.
I'm not dead.
Things
I
things are
almost
going
drowned a
good.
few times though. You know that feeling where you're like, blah, 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 you see the bubbles popping up from the water, as you're
Oh, I
sinking.
hear
But
you.
but somebody's always there, right? And something you learn when you're out on your own is, and everybody talks about it, networking and entrepreneurship and the importance of meeting people, right? And having allies. And
Right.
I didn't necessarily realize that as much as I should have in the corporate world, but damn, has it saved me from drowning a few times, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who you know and who happens to need something that
Yeah,
thinks of you when they
exactly.
do is just a total game changer. So that's super cool. All right, so entrepreneurial background, and you took the jump after a couple decades of professional experience, which is really hard.
It sucks.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to break out of any routine, right? Like people have a hard time changing their toothbrush. You change your whole career.
Yeah, well, it's
So
true.
that's
My poor co-founder, I'm like, there's times when I say something like the team, and I really I really mean him, you know what I mean, or me, or us, and I'm like
yeah,
thinking from a big corporate, and I still have that problem. It's my own paradigm I've got to break through.
yeah, yeah. But bravo for doing that.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's easier to change. We did a show last week with a dude super successful, exited his first company, but he kept joking throughout the show that he's never had a real job because he founded his company senior year of college.
Sure.
And it's like it's wild that he could do that, and it's amazing that he
Hmm.
was successful. It's super rare, but at the same time, he didn't have to shift out of like a couple decades of life routine. I think the latter is a little more admirable because it's so scary and there's so much you have to uproot to do it. And mindset shift into that. Like everything could end tomorrow and I
Well,
accept this
I'm
and I'm going to make
blushing
it
over
work.
here.
Yeah.
You nailed it, right? It's like
Yeah.
the thing that you have with a corporate job, or the thing that you think you have,
Yeah.
is this like a belief that you're going to have a steady check, or a salary, and it exists, and you can do your job and show up, and it exists. Like less risk. You don't kind of
Yeah.
associate that with risk, but as an entrepreneur, it's almost like everything is risky. And
Every
but
single
me
thing you do.
personally, personally, right, I have a hard time not taking things super personal, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're manifesting things out of smoke.
Yeah.
You're making things, you're creating things, you're a creator in a way. and
Mhm.
and I have a hard time taking constructive criticism, because I'm a passionate dude,
Mhm.
and that comes out in what I do, which is great. But people are like, "Hey, man, that was like, or we could have did it this way, and it would have looked like this," and they're totally right, but it still hurts.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think um I think it's interesting the point you make about security. Like you think you have security and
Yeah,
um I think what you're really doing is you're trading someone else um, deciding where the next dollar is going to come from for
hmm,
yourself. And I was lucky. I got to work at a bunch of startups and had access to a lot of things my first couple jobs. So I was aware just how clueless some of the people making decisions were.
sure,
So for me, going on my own was like, well, if things are going to go bad, it's going to be because I made a bad choice, not because he
sure,
made a bad choice. That was a little easier. I think for most folks, it's hard to understand that things are tenuous because you never hear about it until there's
yeah.
layoffs. Like you're just kind of there.
Yep.
unless you have visibility, or work at a bank. If you work at a bank, you're
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much
in the
tenured, right?
corporate environment too, like there's 6 months of talk before the layoff happens too,
Yeah.
and you know we can't forget that that exists. I mean, I
Mhm.
lived through that at General Motors. Speaking of being laid off and stuff, right?
Yeah.
6, 7 years ago, I was laid off, and
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do being a part of 3,000 people walking out of a
Yeah.
building that's like a giant spaceship, in the sense that it's like it could exist on its own. You know, you just kind of feel exiled,
Yeah.
and that sucks just as much as being trying to get your own dollar every other day, right?
Yeah.
But it exists. It's this false sense of security, really, that you don't have to deal with that every day, but really, it's kind of like always lingering. You
Yeah,
know?
it's there. You have faith that someone else is taking care of it
Yeah,
for you.
yeah,
That's the inverse, right? Like all the money on top of the work you do, you're really paying someone else to deal with
yeah.
this for you, which is interesting. But that's back to the paradigm, back to what your business does. I think because of some AI capabilities and some automation, people can stand up businesses fairly quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And because everything's digital, it's easier than ever to get in front of folks. So I think we're like heading into a funny age of creation
We are.
that the world isn't really ready for. But I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing the show. I want to talk to smart people like you who are building stuff or have built stuff or made huge jumps in their life and didn't die. So other people can watch and be like, well, he did it. Maybe I should try it too.
Well,
That's what kind of get out of it.
that's great, and I'll take that as a huge compliment, and thank you very much, because I think there's also the idea that it's never enough for everybody too, right? There's some of us, like, you reach a spot in your life and you go, well, I expected balloons and confetti to fall from the sky, you know, and you're like, well, nothing happened, and you just want more, right? And there's that,
Yeah.
so go get it. Go get it.
Yeah.
Give it a shot, because you're not going to drown, right? It's not going to kill you, and it probably you'll learn a lot through it. It will be a pain in the ass, right? You'll be butthurt about a lot, but it's actually quite when you deliver something, right? As an entrepreneur, you go and you deliver, and it just feels really good to help. That
Yeah.
to me is like, wow, I can build products that serve a purpose in someone else's life. I've done it.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
kind of like self feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah. Mine is when people ask you for something after you've delivered.
Oh yeah,
That's the
that's
real
a
like,
huge compliment.
oh, like you liked this, you trust me.
Yep,
Especially if
that's a
it's
huge
something totally
compliment.
unrelated. It's like, wow, you think I can solve that just because I did this little trinket for you?
Oh
Uh,
shoot, I seemed way too smart, right? Yeah, yeah,
yeah, got to set expectations a little better.
that's right.
All right, all right. So on to the fun part of the show. Now we
Oh
know a little
dude,
bit
I'm
about
I'm
you.
I'm excited, brother.
Yeah, I think yeah, a little back. So we'll whip out the bad idea, but we talk about this a lot. When you build something, you need to have a problem. You don't really need to have an idea, and I think that's what you did in your business. You understood that there's a different way to be resourceful. I can bring this to a lot of companies myself. There's got to be opportunity, and I can find it. You made that bet, and you went for it. I mean, was there like a kernel idea, or were you like, this is an area people are going to need help. The market's changing. I'm going to go give them the help.
Yeah,
Was that
really
kind
good
of
question. I actually started trying out to build. This was a year and a half ago, building
mhm.
a software that exists, and I just haven't sold it, we'll say, but a source flow, a procurement software.
Mhm.
And as I was building this, right, with a group of developers and so on, I kind of realized at that point too, my own thing clicked, like, hey, the way that websites are being built, because 10 years ago I built something like
Yeah,
an application, right, and did something with it, and it petered out, and and here I am building something new, a software, and I realized, oh shoot, the whole tech stack is different. I can basically have a membership model, low code, no code, and then an interface, and I can do whatever I want in that middle of it. And I
mhm.
know I'm oversimplifying it. That's why I'm not in the shit all the time. But the reality is that's kind of how it came about. Like, oh, well, there's far more problems to solve in this middle space, right? Than there
Mhm.
is me just trying to like take my domain experience and shove it into how I think procurement
Should
processes should
work.
be digitally,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's
So, and,
even
and that's what
better.
took off.
So
It's
you had
honestly,
like
and you run with it.
one idea, and then you learned something, and we're like, this is the business. You went with that,
You
and
got it. You
we're
pivot, but that's
rewarded. Yeah.
the crux of business strategy, right? Is being able to sees and transform, right?
Mhm.
Dynamic capabilities theory. Some smarter guy, David Teese, way smarter than me, wrote this. It's been prevalent for like 25 years, you know?
Yeah.
And literally, AI and that type of foundation, it gives you that capability, right? And I just all clicked at once, like, oh my God, I can deliver those kind of abilities to these smaller companies. Those are the guys, us small ones, we can pivot,
Mhm.
very quickly, right? And
Mhm.
that is, it's essential in business because what people want today isn't what they might want tomorrow, too, right?
Yeah. Well, especially now, especially that
Oh yeah.
everything's just getting generated.
Hmm.
And it's the worst part of AI. Everyone expects instant service because they can just go talk to a bot,
It is.
but the bots aren't there yet. It's
It
gonna be.
isn't, and then you alluded to it earlier, like when we're at this place where I don't think everybody's ready for it,
Hmm.
and just using marketing as an example, when everybody's using AI, how are you going to differentiate yourself, right? So it becomes this kind of like,
Especially when
okay,
everyone's using the same AI. It's
yeah,
like you're
everybody's
all
on
on open.
Vappy or Hey Gen, and they all got the same guy's face on there. It's true.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. Maybe that's the intent. They just want to feed everyone's ideas into a machine, and then there's one company for everybody. AI is the company. It's just like
Yeah,
Amazon,
yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah, like I sell millions of dollars on Amazon. It's like no, Amazon sold millions of dollars. They paid you a little
Yeah.
bit of it.
You helped
Uh,
Amazon sell millions of dollars. Yeah.
Genius, though. Genius, right?
Yeah,
Um,
well, what a great entrepreneurial structure. I mean, these folks they're billionaires for a reason. They thought
oh,
about
for
this,
sure.
and they got the top people they hire smarter people than them too.
Yeah, yeah, it's the way to go. The App Store, probably second most genius thing ever. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
release software
Trust
that
me,
we
man.
own
When I went
30%
through
of.
this is 12 years ago or something.
Yeah.
I made an application called Bus Buddy, and the whole idea was that you use geofencing for a rural school, and when the bus got within that geofence, the student's mom or dad would get a ping notification. You can send them out, right? Send them to the bus.
Yeah.
Because that was personal experience why I built that because I spent time in Michigan in the middle of nowhere like 20 minutes outside in the snow waiting for a bus,
Yeah.
that was stuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that, I solved my own problem there. That's why nobody wanted it, right? That was a
Yeah.
different thing. But I even forget what the point was of the
We're
Bus
talking
Buddy
about the
story.
App Store. Like you
Oh,
published it on the store? Yeah.
yeah, and going through it, yeah, publishing it on the App Store itself, you realize how much they're getting off of you.
They own it. It's
Yeah,
amazing. And
yeah,
there's no
it's
liability.
insane.
There's no liability. That's a brilliant. It's just like Amazon. There's no liability, and they get all the. It's just amazing.
Yep.
Um, but it makes our life better too, right? We get products in 2 days. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So our bad idea today. We'll take a look at this and see if we can turn it into $1 billion idea. All right.
Okay.
All right. Our idea is auto reject HR bot, a
Gotcha.
hiring software that instantly rejects job applicants based on arbitrary criteria like uses too many vowels in their cover letter to streamline recruitment chaos. What's
I
your
think it's
reaction?
great, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of like sentiment you could gather from types of the way sentences are structured, right?
Hmm.
Like I have a certain way of talking. You can gather from me when you don't see me that I wave my hands a lot, and I'm probably like bouncing off the walls or sitting upside down over here. You can kind of feel that. So I have in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what an interesting way to like use sentiment analysis to just kick somebody out because they're not the cultural fit. Yeah.
If you could trust it, I think AI is learning fast. You probably deal with it a lot more than I do, but there's so much nuance that it misses, at least in my experience.
Sure.
And its inability to correct itself or catch itself, even with math, like basic things,
Sure.
still makes me a little bit nervous. And I think it like they mask it by showing you all of their work. So there's so much stuff you kind of like miss the little mistakes that they have in there. But if they're doing that on basic math components now, I wouldn't trust it evaluating a human, especially when
Really?
that human's resume is written by ChatGPT anyway. So it's like evaluating itself, right?
Yeah, well, that's a really funny idea, right? But because I mean, basically, that's what people are doing. I bet ATS, right, resume things. I bet they
Hmm.
reject certain X amount of AI. This was written by AI. Let's reject it. Or the
Hmm.
criteria is not written down somewhere. Maybe this is something people are already doing, like outside the box. You know what I mean? Outside the process, right? They're already, that sentence sucks. That guy's gone. you know? I mean, it is, let's be honest, the resume thing is an arbitrary, once you get past the check the 10 boxes, right? Oh, you did this for, I want a guy who's been in the same career for 27 years and they've done nothing but what the job was supposed to do. And that's like your job market today, right?
Yeah,
You checked all those 10 boxes. You showed no career growth, but because you've been doing that for 12 years,
you're
I
probably
want
good
you on
at
my team,
it.
right? And ATS is going to reject it if you haven't done all that. I'd say why not add another beautiful layer where it just takes an arbitrary thing in there. At least you're adding some variability into the, like a coin flip, at least, right? You're not.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather have them flip the coin than me.
I think you're bringing up a really good efficiency point. Um, I'm going to take this in a philosophical direction, so you
Game
can
on.
shut this down if it's too spacey for you. But I think because AI is changing the way we communicate, and everyone's AIing their resume and their profile and their social content, like it's almost like a sea of bots have replaced the authenticity, even the bad authenticity
Yeah,
of humans, which is actually going to increase the premium value of the unique human components of our work.
you got it.
And I think it's also going to place like a really, really premium value on people with vision and creativity, because they can take all of this machinery and wrangle it into something properly original, and hopefully have the vision to kind of like measure what's coming against where they want it, which I think is the most rare thing to hire for. It's the hardest thing to hire for. Like someone who can set a standard in their head that's not clearly written for them and manage to that standard.
Yeah, I mean, part of what you're talking about is experience. And 20 years ago, I would have like said experience doesn't matter, right? But I mean, like in essence, that generalist problem solver,
Yeah,
right, is going to have. I'm totally with you. I think they're going to have
yeah,
an advantage of the future. And I went down a deep rabbit hole about the post-job economy. Okay,
yeah.
and I'm saying this because I'm going to go even space here with you. Okay,
Let's do
I'm
it.
I'm saying post-job economy because when I back that off in my head, I'm where you were just talking about the actual human interaction and the bots everywhere, right? We have bots talking to bots, and
Yeah,
my bot's saying hi to that other guy's bot on LinkedIn, and
yeah,
where they're pitching each other this businesses,
yeah,
back and
yeah,
forth. That's my favorite, right? And so that's happening left and right, and so the personal response, right, that tangible thing. When I went down that rabbit hole, the interesting like predictions that are out there in literature, like
Hmm.
published literature, the interesting thoughts are that people are going to post job economy. Okay, no jobs exist. We're either like living off of a government that supports an equal economy for all, or a government that takes full advantage of it. Right, one of the two.
yeah,
Let's pretend we're in the one that supports equal something for all.
yeah.
In this case, people are seeking out job emulators. They're seeking out simulations of jobs so that they can have that interaction you're talking about
Or
with other
purpose.
people.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah. I
blows
hear
my
you.
mind. That's
Yeah.
scary as shit because that's 40 years from now thinking. The way that AI is transforming things, it
Hmm.
happens sooner than you think. Some of these businesses, though, I work with, they're absolutely right. We don't jump on AI because not everybody adopts this stuff right away, right? There's always a lag, you know.
Uh,
So maybe it's not 40 years, but it's really interesting because you need the human element for virtue, right? You either get virtue out
yeah.
of the human. It's not through using the tool, right? Through the act. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
and well, and the other thing, as much as we call AI generative, it's really just combining things it's already seen. It's not actually creating anything new.
yeah,
And as much as we can argue that humans do that, like we've been around a little longer, and we can see lots of evidence of humans creating something new. And I don't think AI can be inspired, and I don't think it's going to be easy to replicate that with code.
yeah.
You
Well,
can
I'm
fake it,
100%
but
with you. I mean, it's going to be really good. I like to think of AI as like the digital mimicry of human cognition. As best as we can think,
yeah,
we think we're just trying to mimic our thinking. But
yeah,
the best, you said it perfect. AI is the Chinese room theory, where you have a guy in a blank room, and under the door, he's fed Chinese symbols, right? Not fed, but they're sliding them under the door,
yeah,
and the guy's got a manual that tells him where to put the symbol, right? When he
uh-huh.
receives it. So he picks it up and he goes, "Oh, this is space 2." and he puts it there. That's kind of how AI works, right? It
Yeah.
takes your inputs and it puts it in the right. I love that idea of thinking about it like that, because it isn't like manifesting an idea. It's not generating a new idea,
Yeah.
right? And we have this thought that like when we prompt this thing, it's giving us some genius response, right? But again, back to get it back to the arbitrary HR, maybe that's okay in the sense of maybe like I have so much pressure at my job as an HR manager to hire a particular type of worker, or I need the guy who's sipping the company juice and blah blah blah, and maybe that arbitrary before me actually reduces some, having that decision happen before me, it reduces some of my own bias that I put into the process.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. So it's like a filtering layer. Um,
In a way, sorry, but shit, man, when you travel from here to Mexico, right? I mean, I don't carry drugs when I fly in airports, okay? Even
yeah.
if I did, I'd be freaking out going anywhere to Mexico, especially because they're randomly test you,
hmm
you know? Or not
So you think it's
drug test you,
similar to
but they
that?
randomly open your bag and look through
Mm.
everything, and you get a green light or a red light. Every time I think I'm gonna get caught with something I don't have, you know.
Yeah.
But you're like, please no, please no. It's kind of the same idea. Well, you submit the resume, and well, either it goes through or it doesn't.
hmm
I'd rather know that that was happening than not know like
Yeah.
it happens today.
I think you got a point there. I think I'm still stuck in your 40 years in the future when we're in like the post job economy and what that's going to look like.
Yeah,
And
dude, that's a big rabbit hole.
well, fortunate, really, really old great grandparents that I got to know a little bit. And I think a lot of people have that experience, but they were around when the automobile was popularized. Like when it
Nice.
was like a novelty to something common in a matter of a couple decades. Um, and they talk about kind of the same thing happened. Like there was such a huge industry moving product back and forth by boat, by horse, communications, like everything sped up overnight. And it's a similar shift that we're going through now with AI. And it didn't actually like eliminate jobs. It created massive amounts of new jobs because
Yeah.
suddenly you can communicate and travel. Same thing when the internet and airplanes come on.
Mm-hmm.
Now suddenly we expect overnight delivery from around the world because these networks are built. And I think AI is going to exacerbate that. My hunch is everything that we can figure out how to do repeatably, we'll be able to train a machine to do.
Oh yeah.
So our productivity, like as a population, is going to go through the roof, and we're going to need a whole new class of workforce to kind of corral this massive thing.
I think
Like
so. I
like
do too. I would agree with that because I don't see where everyone, there's always going to be the person who and good for them, good not for them. I don't care. I'm not judging. But there's always going to be a person who like believes that what they put into something they should get more, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And that's just like a left or right, Democrat, Republican. There's always going to be that kind of like person who needs that. And that's it. It'll delay, maybe it'll delay
yeah.
this kind of idea that none of us are working and we're all just seeking to simulate work just for the human interaction.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, it's a valuable theory. When you were in procurement, because the teams must have been huge. Did you ever have a situation where like you're working on a project and everything gets in motion, and you have like a team working on this piece, a team working on this piece, and one guy says, "Hey, stop! We're not going to do this. We're going to go in a different direction," and the other teams don't hear it, so they just keep going. So you have these like silo teams just kind of chugging along
Yeah,
while
I
like the
mean
direction is
that's
shifting.
all day, man. It's like a political warfare sometimes internally in companies. It really is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bureaucracy. I won't. I try not to say who it is, right? By talking about it, but there's a lot of bureaucracy between functions,
hmm
right? And so you could like in procurement, the idea is, oh, we have a strategy to sole source supplier A, right?
Uh-huh.
But we still are playing the game with supplier A, B, and C. But we're strategically going to like, we know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Engineering has their own idea, and you basically like work. They literally like go on tangents, and it happens. At one organization, I was able to like go to the point to where I sourced $300 million worth of business. That's a huge chunk of business.
Yeah.
Got it approved by our top dog in the organization, big guy, and it was a huge win for me in my early career. And then he came back to me the next day and said, "Oh, we forgot the UAW in New York needs to approve this whole thing. And what did it mean? It meant another 3 months of like, well, going back, redoing the decision, pivoting where we were, but that's where small companies can kind of like do that. And then, and when I talk foundational right now, right, like no code, low code, and building an agile approach to where you can
Mm-hmm.
flick out DeepSeek and take over with Chat GPT just because now it's cheaper or something. That kind of approach at least is going to give people the opportunity to pivot quickly rather than
Mm-hmm.
like
Three
feel the
months.
pain of those mundane, repeatable things, repeating things,
I'm just imagine like an AI in some of these bureaucratic roles. Like imagine your process being run by a machine. It's like you didn't fill out this form, you didn't go through this proper process. Like imagine what that rigidity is going to do, because it's gonna. I think that's going to happen for sure,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
it's just going to like shine a spotlight on the need for humans to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is too rigid. We need to change and go this way now.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point because I think there's there's two thoughts I have on it, right? Like one thing is data AI doesn't mean that data needs to be clean, right? AI can actually be really good for cleaning up data,
Yeah,
but AI needs AI in any process needs guardrails.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I've
yeah,
been in companies where the guardrails, I mean, I run a company where I basically try to keep the guardrails as open as possible,
yeah.
within compliance and legal, whatever. But I've been in companies, and the bigger they are, the tighter they get, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
good excuses for humans too. I leaned on process. Oh, I can't do that because of this. You lean on that nonstop. And I would say that stopped productivity in a way, right? So to your
Mhm.
point, like it's people are gonna, I don't have it, I'm not even gonna do it, and that's generally some of the responses you get, right, through the
Mhm.
process of sourcing
Yeah.
or I don't know, changing a contract even, right? Something very simple. You got to get this approval on that, and
Yeah.
somewhere it gets stalled because you didn't go through the right process or you didn't click the button before you pushed it through. That kind of shit happens all the time
Yeah. Yeah.
today,
And if you make it foolproof, so the machine is holding everyone to the same rule, it's definitely going to create bottlenecks in some areas, I think.
Yeah, sure. And I
Uh,
don't know if anybody wants to live like that either. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
just
agree.
thinking out loud. It's like I don't really need to be reminded. Like the dingers in the car piss me off.
Yeah.
But oh, you need to buckle your seatbelt. I buckle my seatbelt, but I'm just a little slow. You know,
Yeah.
I don't. I go to put it in reverse before I buckle the seatbelt, and they
Yeah.
always bitch at me for that. And you know what I mean. But those things bother me. Now I don't need that like advertising today or social media today, right?
Mhm.
It's very much in your face. Now imagine like guardrails on everything because
There's a
AI is doing
bot.
everything.
Yeah. No, it'd be pretty wild. I
In this case, though,
that's
you'd need our HR bot to kind of mix things up,
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
that's what worries me. I mean, I read about this stuff. Wasn't it, there was a lawsuit like 2 weeks ago where the bots were screening by race,
Oh yeah,
um, and it decided itself to do that. It was given parameters, but then created its own pattern that started screening by race, and it just
yeah. I mean that's the gurus for you today, right?
yeah.
I hate to say it like that, and I am not a guru, right?
Mhm.
But you go to social media and you type in AI, and everybody's made a $30,000 a month business, and they're going to tell you how they did it, you
Yeah,
know,
yep, yep, yep.
and they're going to share with you their exact blueprint for doing that. And it's okay, guru, thank you. But that's a proliferation that I don't want to see. I
Yeah,
want to see flexible foundations with strategy built into them. And guardrails that are acceptable. I don't want to see like a workflow here and a guru putting this cool AI here. It's not going to work.
yeah. Well, plus, if they're selling you their blueprint and their course on their $30,000 a month AI business, it's probably not a growing business, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The
Well, that's where
growing
they're making
business
their
is a
money is off of the
subscription.
course in you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah,
always makes me chuckle, right? It's like, oh
yeah,
man, there's 400 guys in this course, guys and gals. Wow, and it fit $40. Okay, this is the business. That's the
yeah,
business.
yeah. It's not what they're actually selling. That's what makes me nervous about this HR bot. I think what it means to be human is going to become like a forefront thing in the next
Yeah,
couple of years, even. And I think a lot of people are trying to automate screening, and they're going to lose a lot of that gold, like that uniqueness. like organic blemishes that a machine is never
Sure.
going to discover or create. We were talking about music, your drum kit in the background. I think like the amount of brain you need to use to play the drums is unfathomable, but like a
Sure.
machine will not do that.
Yeah.
Again, somebody's probably going to program it, but it's going to be sequential. The thing is going to be like thinking in sequence. It's not going to be playing in concert with
Sure.
itself. And I think that's going to be premium. You're going to have so many like standardized businesses because the AI filtered down to like a specific archetype that people are going to go out and look for somebody who does it a different way, or like, hey, for this role, we need to hire someone who has no experience whatsoever, or like has been homeless for the last year, so they can come in and give us some sort of perspective.
I almost think that where it's standardized, I mean, I think it'll also be incredibly niche too.
Yeah.
So when you talk about like
Good point. Good point.
a bunch of standard businesses, there'll be like 10 businesses that trim your toenails for you. I mean, you know what I mean, but they're all really good at that, and they all use AI to do it, and they all use it in almost the same way, and they're all between $20 and $40 to use per month, and the first 7 days are free, and then when you sign up, they want you to do the year-long thing, and you can't figure out where the month is. They're all going to be like that, you know?
Yeah.
No joke.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still love the idea of the arbitrary part of it. If this bot wasn't arbitrary, like making just random, like, because I'm moody as shit too, man. You know, some days I wake up, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't think I suffer from depression. I just slept. You know, I was sleeping good, or I didn't go to bed early enough, right? So like, that impacts my decision making. One of the things that I'll tell you, one of the things that blew my mind and still blows my mind today, there's data, right? We all like interpret data, and the best in my experience, some of the best leaders are good at interpreting data and drawing conclusions from it, right? I mean, that's basically what they do all day, is spend 8 hours in meetings and conclude things and make decisions and take the risk. That's why they get paid the big bucks, you know? Now, it blows my mind that people can have data that is clearly stating something, right? It clearly says that the decision is A, but leadership goes with B, you know? Now, if this bot can arbitrarily help to eliminate that kind of irrational decision making, bring it on. You know, let's implement it everywhere. Let's implement it in the contracting.
So you think because it's arbitrary, there's going to be a more diverse group of people that come in?
Yeah,
So
that's kind of the argument I'm making. Like just the randomness of it all. If you remove the arbitrary word, then I'd be really worried about this being a biased, like uber biased thing, right? But if this thing wakes up one day and it doesn't like the color yellow because the sun shined on it, for the day, and there's yellow ink and it gets rid of that because that's how it feels today. I don't know. I think it happens already with us,
Yeah, maybe the machine replicates. How do you position it then? So this is like, how do you sell this into an organization? Like, hey, you really need this to screen because your candidate pool is going to be 40% better. I know it sounds random, but try it. Your candidate pool is going to be X% better. Is that the?
Well, I mean, there's probably statistics about DEI and improvement of DEI in organizations, right? And there's probably enough randomness where you could make an argument that you'll statistically bring in better quality candidates by just taking a random pool versus, a select pool. But I'm probably going way on a limb with that one, man.
But maybe you do a pilot, right? You give it to people for 60 days to run it,
Sure.
like in parallel, right? So they can do their manual screenings, but it'll show you who it removed.
Sure.
So you can compare it against your top candidates.
That'd be that'd be a case study in and of itself to prove it out. Because let's say you do get successful candidates from the bot, right? There it is. There's your proof in the pudding,
I think what's crazy, we interview like 150 people a week, like lots and lots and lots of recruiting and screening. And you find some amazing people in the weirdest places.
Sure.
Like we had a systems engineer that is like the best project manager ever.
Sure.
And he works exclusively on front end stuff. And it's like, how did you go from like the back of everything to being like a wonderful coordinator for the artsy stuff? It doesn't really make sense. And we never would have put him there if we interviewed him based on his data ever. Like we would never have screened him. we happened to discover that he had a great ability to communicate. He was super reliable. He was proactive. He was good at organizing. And I think that's what this reminds me of. I look at this and I'm like, it's not going to see that. But I think what you're saying is if it randomly like just removes a pool that's coming in, it forces you to like, it forces you out of your own bias because it doesn't give you a chance. Like you have to kind of review what it's
That's
selected
kind of
for
the
you.
argument there is
Yeah.
that by the arbitrary random
All
nature
right.
of it, you're kind of coin flipping of the pool of 1,000 that you're trying to get through. Why not let it coin flip and eliminate 500? Sucks to be in that group of 500, but it's just like an airport in Mexico. It sucks to get your bag
Yeah.
ripped open and feel like you have drugs that you don't have, but you still go through it and you still go to party in Tijuana or wherever you're at.
This is super. So we're basically saying this bot doesn't optimize your screening. It optimizes you.
Yeah,
It
your
optimizes
bias,
the
right? It
screener.
optimizes your decision-making capability.
All right.
Rationale check, maybe. Well,
That's super
Rationale bot
clever.
101, HR rationale bot.
All right. All right. You turn me. I'm into it now. First I
Good,
was
we're
like, no,
winning.
there's good people we're going to lose. But this is interesting. Forcing you to focus on a pool of people will be beneficial no matter what.
And you brought up an interesting your example of
Yeah.
the project manager that
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's a great example because I don't think a lot of leaders think like that. And the hiring market today isn't that proactive about recognizing a skill and placing somebody into that position. I think
Mhm.
they're more or less literally looking for that check the
Carbon
box,
copy.
right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and we can fault AI in part for that, right? AI is looking, the ATS is reading your resume and it wants 12 keywords. If not, you're already shit out of, you're shit out of luck,
Mhm.
right? But using that example, I think it's really up to the leader, anyways, to interpret what that person is going to do in that position, right? I mean, what they
Mhm.
want from it too. None of that's exhibited in a resume or a job posting. What people really want out of it and what they're really going to do. I mean, that's
That's
a whole nother
honestly.
problem, actually. Maybe we should randomize the job description for like in the posting too.
Hey, yeah. So you control who you attract. I.
Yeah,
But I think we're getting back to the point we made earlier too, which is that AI gives us a lot of power, but they all operate from the same system. Like there's three big ones that all operate predominantly from the same system. So Grok is Grok for everyone.
yeah,
GPT is GPT for everyone. Cloud is Cloud for everyone. So it's a great performance lift, but it shines a massive light on how unique we are, like
yeah.
as humans, as organic and different and flawed. And
It's an
I,
amplifier. You nailed it. I mean,
yeah,
it literally amplifies good and bad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I think there will be value in both. And I'm
Hmm.
hoping that's what happens. I'm hoping it's not the second scenario you brought up where people are like, wait a minute, like all these organic things with different experiences, that's the value.
Yeah.
So let's give all the standard stuff. Every process goes to AI. AI can do process. That's
Hmm.
fine. Humans create, and then
Yeah.
experience has a
100%.
premium.
100%. The ideas still
Yeah.
got to get created from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And
All right.
no tool, right? I mean, we'll go to like stoicism here for a second. No
Yeah.
tool is virtuous, right? You don't pick up a hammer
Yeah.
and the hammer is good or bad. It's how you use the hammer, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so AI in the same regard is like that. We have to be, especially since it's happening so fast, and to your point, we have to be cognizant of the implications, right? And what it
Mm-hmm.
could mean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not fear mongering. It's more like if we use this wrong, we're ending up in a position where we're literally trying to go to work just to have human interaction. And
Yeah.
it's scary. It can be
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. It's wild. Well, you flip me. I'm into this if it forces us out of our own biases. I think that's a really cool way to apply this idea. Nice pivot.
Yeah, well, hallelujah, man. I mean, $6.99 per month. You can sign up for free for the first 7 days, and then we
Yeah.
only do you do annually, you'll get 5% off. Just like
There you
everything.
go. That's a business. You're good. We can put a case study up online and sell a course on it next week.
Yeah, the thing
Uh,
is, we could probably use a Replit, agent and build this like in the next 10 minutes.
there you go. Maybe as a follow up to the show, you can put up a video on how to do that live. That'd be
Oh
pretty
my God,
funny.
you know what? I think
Uh,
I
we'll,
think I might just for
we'll
the for
share it.
the for the sake of it. And then when this does take off and I'm sued for bias, can I come back? Can I
Yeah.
come back to the show?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this crazy guy, he made me do it.
I'll call in
Um,
from prison, you know.
yeah. But how do people get in touch with you? I'm sure folks will like the way you think and want to run their bad ideas by you. How do they get in touch with you?
Well, first of all, I got a shit ton of bad ideas. I love talking about them too.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on to talk about
Yeah.
these things. You can find me on LinkedIn, Paul Malott, 1L, 2 T's, Malott, or automations24.com.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll get a link out too when we publish the episode.
Beautiful. Thank you.
But this is great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine, Nick. Thank you, brother.